Massive protests have erupted across Israel after bodies of 6 hostages were recovered from a tunnel in southern Gaza. The demonstrators demanded that the government reach a ceasefire deal with Hamas to free the Israeli hostages. They also accused the government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, of failing to save the remaining hostages. On Saturday, the Israel Defense Forces said that 6 bodies were found in the Rafah area of southern Gaza, and all of them were murdered by Hamas terrorists in a number of shots at close range, 48 to 72 hours before their bodies were discovered. Now, their deaths leave 101 Israeli and foreign captives still in Gaza, but around a third of these are known to have died, with the fate of the others unknown. The Israeli economy has come to a standstill because of a one-day general strike on Monday, called by a major trade union to put pressure on the government to reach a deal with Hamas. Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport has halted flights amid the strike. Earlier, a top labor union leader urged all civilian workers to join the strike. The union represents some 800,000 workers in areas such as healthcare, transportation and banking. The strike is the first of its kind since the Hamas's attacks on Israel.
It's not a simple matter to shut down the economy, and you know how much responsibility I've shown in the last 11 months. No more. I call on the people of Israel to take to the streets, leave the workplaces. I call on all the economic organizations in the state of Israel, everyone to join the strike. We must raise the cry of our hostages, our displaced, our dead. The state of Israel must be returned to normal.
Thousands of demonstrators also gathered at New York City's Central Park to pay tributes to the 6 Israeli hostages who were killed in Gaza and to call for the return of others still held captive. The participants held photographs of the hostages and banners with messages such as "Bring our children back." The crowd sang Israel's national anthem and chanted for the safe return of the captives. The event featured speeches from relatives of hostages, including the father of slain Israeli-American Hersh Goldberg Polin. Several U.S. Democratic lawmakers also renewed calls for an Israeli-Hamas ceasefire, while Republicans criticized the government for not giving stronger support to Israel. The Democrats say that a ceasefire must be reached immediately that allows all remaining hostages to be released, humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza, and an elusive and neglected long-term vision for peace and stability to become a reality. Meanwhile, the Republicans urged President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris to finish the job against the Hamas. And joining me is Ambassador S.R. Thayal. He is a former Indian ambassador to South Korea and Uzbekistan. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hub. What do you make of the protests targeting Netanyahu?
See, at present, the Israeli society as well as the government seem to be divided. That half the country or less than half is saying that the government of Israel, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, should strike a deal with Hamas and secure the release of now 100, maybe 30, 70, 80 maybe surviving hostages. Because we need to remember that on 7th October, there were 251 Israelis had been kidnapped in the terrorist attack by Hamas. And over the last 11 months, now the number has come down to 100. And if Prime Minister Netanyahu continues on this declared path of total annihilation of Hamas, that is likely to happen in the near future. Because one Hamas terrorist dies, the whole thing is taking the shape of an Israel-Palestine war. Because we need to remember that 40,000 people in Gaza have been killed by Israeli defense forces. out of a total population of 600,000. So all that will also generate a lot of revenge. So this many external observers also who are military experts feel the total annihilation of a terrorist organization like Hamas is very, very difficult, if not impossible.
Okay.
And it will take so much time that by that time, perhaps all these hostages will be dead. So that is the dilemma facing the people of Israel as well as the government of Israel.
Do you think the protests are justified, Ambassador?
It is very difficult. It is, I should not draw any comparison, but it came to my mind that Kandahar hijacking incident of, I think it was 2000, when there was so much public pressure and that we had to release three terrorists. If you recall, if our viewers recall, and they became very bad terrorists and killed hundreds of people. So for the government of Israel, for Prime Minister Netanyahu, it's a very difficult call. And it is for them really to decide no outsider. It is a democratic country. Israel is a democratic country. It is not an autocratic, authoritarian dictatorship. So it is for the government, cabinet, and parliament of Israel to take a decision, but it is a very, very difficult decision.
So, what are Netanyahu's options, Ambassador Tayal?
He has options, but very clearly he has declared, and nobody is in any doubt of his intention, that he will continue strikes in Gaza till Hamas is annihilated. Hamas is finished. Hamas is an organization, and gradually they are killing a lot of leadership of Hamas. But many observers, analysts believe that Hamas is so integrated with the population of Gaza, with the citizens of Gaza, with the life of Gaza people, that it is an impossible aim. And so it can go on for a very long time. And also, Prime Minister Netanyahu himself is facing some court actions and there is some unpopularity. And generally, political observers believe that if the war ends, then the political future of Prime Minister Netanyahu may be in jeopardy.
Right.
So, continuation of war is also linked perhaps with his own political future. So, it's a very complex issue. And in the Israeli cabinet, there are some very conservative far-right elements who do not want any kind of compromise. As I said earlier, the Israeli society as well as the government are quite divided on this issue.
Talking of complexities, Ambassador Tayal, what do you make of the fighting in the West Bank? Does it make things worse?
Certainly, it makes things worse. And as the whole world says, India says, the two-state solution is the only solution for permanent peace in Palestine between Palestinians and Israelis. All indications are that the West Bank is like an occupied territory. So the BRICS statement has also been issued in Russia, where India was also a signatory. It calls it a occupied Palestinian territory. So Israel should take note that it is losing public support, public sympathy because of this very harsh and disproportionate action against the people of Israel. Of course, it was a terrorist act that 1,200 Israelis, innocent Israelis, were killed. But 40,000 innocent Gazans have also been killed. So there has to be some balance, and hopefully, again, some kind of dialogue will take place. Dialogue is continuously taking place in Qatar, in Cairo, and America is, of course, very much involved. But till now, Prime Minister Netanyahu has set some conditions which, according to reports, are even not liked by United States. So the ball is in Prime Minister Netanyahu's court, and really it is up to him to soften the terms so that there can be an agreement and these hostages who are still alive can come back and the whole world move towards the path of a two-state solution in
Ambassador,
Palestine.
before we close, you've spoken about India and India's position on this issue. What can India and the world at large do to end this conflict?
India has to work along with global south, along with other decisive countries, and that is what is happening.
Okay,
And generally, in United Nations, India has supported that Palestine should be a full member of United Nations. That flows from India's old policy, right from 1948, that they should be, which is according to the UN resolution which created Israel, that there should be a Palestinian state also side by side,
right.
living peacefully with Israel. That is the only solution for this conflict. And one can only hope that eventually, after all this bloodshed, after all this mayhem, wiser council will prevail. And the main protagonist, that means Israel, according to all observers, is more creating more difficulties in two-state solution. So it mellows and then or takes a decision that two-state solution is a desirable objective. Otherwise, this kind of incidents will keep
Right.
on happening every 5-6 years, as we have seen in the past.
Indeed. Ambassador Tayal, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.